Good morning or good evening, depending on where you're logging in from. Welcome back to part 2 of the webinar, the Yoga of Positivity. Let me start with the prayer before we move on. Yogena chittasya padena vacham malam sharirasya cha vaidyakena yopakarottam pravaram muninam Patanjalim pranjaliranatosmi Abahu Purushakaram Shankhachakrasidharinam Sahasrashirasam Shvetam Pranamami Patanjalim Shrimate Anantaya Nagarajaya Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Vagishayateeshwarabhyam Samprapta Chakrankana Bhashyasaram Shrinutnarangendra Yatau Samarpitasvam Shri Krishnamaryam Guruvaryamide Virodhe Kartike Mase Shatatara Kritodayam Yogacharyam Krishnamaryam Guruvaryamaham Bhaje Krishna Suri Daya Patram Jnana Vairagya Bhushanam Srimad Venkatanathāryam Vandeham Yogadeshikam Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. As we begin, I'd like to just place a request. Please do not use the chat icon on your screen. If you have any questions, you're most welcome to use the Q&A section. Please just give me one moment. You're also welcome to write your feedback or questions or responses to us using our email ID webinar@kym.org. We move on to part 2 of the lecture series. Just give me a moment as I bring the slides up. Yesterday, we looked at the cycle of how the kleshas that are present in our mind trigger the generation of certain patterns of thought, speech, and behavior. All of this revolves fundamentally around two experiences, the experience of pleasure and the experience of pain, and therefore an anticipation of pleasure or an avoidance of pain as repetitive behavioral patterns. Filtered, when does this start affecting us is when the ego enters the picture. And so through the lens of the ego, this becomes my pleasure or my pain. And therefore, fear, protecting what is pleasurable to me, fear that I will encounter what is unpleasant. Both of these, this is the cycle that we go on. And as I said in part 1 of this lecture, it is important to identify the fear, to identify the negativity. But then what yoga tells us is that you identify it. There is no need to deny it, accept it as real, but do something affirmative, something that can shift your mind from its preoccupation with fear to something else, something that is more positive, affirmative. And so we saw Prabalena Durbalasya Badaha, to create a strong positive samskara which will overcome a weak, debilitating samskara. This is where the practices of yoga help us, because the effect of these samskaras you see happen. Although the samskaras originate in the mind, you can see that their impact spreads throughout the body, affecting the body, the mind, the emotions, everything. And fundamental to this process, Dirgha Sukshma Prana, how the breath plays such a powerful role in helping us to change these samskaras one at a time. This is what we saw in part 1 of the lecture. We move on. Just look at, where does our distress come from? What is the origin of this distress? Specifically in the light of the situation that we find ourselves now, where is this distress coming from? As the Bhagavad Gita says, Kama esha, Krodha esha, Rajo guna samudbhavaha. All of this that we experience is fundamentally desire and anger. Because there is desire to experience something that each one of us considers as pleasurable. Naturally, when that is prevented, when there is an obstacle, there is anger, frustration. And this arises out of rajas, and therefore sets in motion what is known in yoga as paritapa, a cycle of repetitive suffering. The experience happens once, but we relive it so many times as our memory pulls back this pattern. We must understand that at the foundation of our distress, and this is something that all the traditions accept, is attachment, sangha. Attachment to work, attachment to lifestyle, attachment to family, friends, societies, certain social practices, attachment to ways of living, sleeping, types of food, cuisine, attachment to sleep, attachment to entertainment. Most importantly for us, and because especially we are now in this really fast forward world, attachment to instant gratification. I want it now, and I don't care how I set about getting this. And it's all of this that we find, that urge for gratification that we now find is impeded in so many ways. And therefore, we necessarily have to cope. Let's explore this idea of Sangha further. This is a beautiful model that comes up in chapter 2 of the Bhagavad Gita, where Arjuna specifically asks Krishna to explain to him the qualities of a person of steady wisdom, steady intellect, sthita prajna. And Krishna takes a large number of verses to explain to him who a person of a steady mind, intellect is. In that context, Krishna also tells Arjuna that what shakes that stability, what prevents us from having that stable clarity, it starts with Sangha, attachment. Attachment, we've seen attachment to anything, any practice, any behavior, any lifestyle, everything we form a Sangha. Invariably, these Sanghas are based on experiences of pleasure or pain, and therefore there is naturally a desire to experience that which is pleasurable. Now, this desire is common. Every one of us as humans have desire. But as Buddhism says, and as what all these traditional knowledge systems say, is that there is a limit to our desire. But when this desire becomes excessive, then desire obscures all reason, all rational. And there is kama, excessive desire to possess, to own, to control, all of this. And as an outcome of this desire, naturally, when there is going to be competition, because if so many of us, remember, this is not one person's desire. We are a society, we are a collective, and necessarily, whether we like it or not, we are coming into the spheres of influence of so many people. And therefore, there is bound to be competition. And when there is competition, naturally what I desire is hard to reach, or I reach it and it's taken away. And this feeds anger, krodha, rage. This we are seeing unfold in the world that we live in. I think those of you who have done some of these Yoga Sutra, yoga philosophy studies will see how beautifully this model resonates. The kind of anger that has fueled wars, the desire for power, for control at a global level. Where is this leading us? Sammoha, complete delusion. Delusion, again, remember, this is not even an individual delusion. This is collective. This is happening at a global level where, as an outcome of that delusion, we justify the desire, we justify the anger, we justify the wars that nations fight in their pursuit of power. We are affected at an individual level, but all of this is happening at a global scale. And then, as an outcome to this moha delusion, smriti vibhrama. I apologize for the spelling mistake there. Smriti vibhrama, the distortion of memory. One starts to actually reinvent your memory. And this is true in any situation. When we have a memory that's not very pleasant, we will do everything that we can to block it out, or actually convince ourselves that certain events happened in some other way. They didn't happen the way they actually did. Why do we do this? Yes, it could be a mechanism of protection. Also, it can be subservient to the desire, to the anger. Again, this is something that we are seeing at a global level in terms of international relationships, in terms of politics, what happens with the distortion of memory. And then naturally, as an outcome, buddhinasha, complete loss of reason, loss of any sense of ethical or value system. And this is what we've done out of our buddhinasha, collective buddhinasha. This is what we've done to the world around us. This is what we've done to the earth, to the waters, to the air. We see so many reports now of the earth healing, of animals returning to habitats, of national parks where animals are roaming free without fear. Very heartening. In fact, here where I live in an apartment in the heart of the city, we can see the stars so much brighter. We can hear the bird song much louder. And so, yes, that there has been a collective buddhinasha that has led to a suppression of the earth's bounty. And now, as we have retreated inside our homes, nature has a chance and showing us the extent of our buddhinasha. And as an outcome of this destruction of reason, pranasha, what a catastrophic chain of events has been set in place across the world in a matter of 4 months. But this is not a 4-month process. This destruction, pranasha, literally means a complete, total destruction from which it is very hard to redeem oneself. This has been set in motion decades ago because of our collective choices. And this is what the Bhagavad Gita has to say so beautifully about how our inappropriate attachments to the pursuit of pleasure and somehow that urge to avoid pain at all cost, no matter the implications to others. This is what has brought us to this point. And therefore, what is the solution? Very simple, satsanga. As the Bhajagovindam says, the Bhajagovindam again is such a beautiful composition attributed to Adi Shankara. He says, Satsangatve dussangatvam. It is important to let go of the dussanga, because it is this dussanga that creates a herd mentality that makes us rationalize things and say that this is okay. It's only one straw. It's only one drive into a protected reserve. It's only one plastic bag that I'm throwing out, multiplied by billions of people doing the same thing from the same attachment. This has brought us to where we are. And therefore, this is a time for reflection. Hope is not lost because there is still so much to learn from this situation. And this is what we will see today. Why have we embarked on this downward spiral into this negativity? A, because we seek outside. Constantly our vision is outside. What are we seeking? We are seeking for objects that will pleasure us outside to fill up a void that is inside of us. And then we place our faith in material objects, in cars, in luxury cars, in palatial bungalows, in owning branded products, wearing the best, eating the best food, jet setting across the world. This is where we place our faith, thinking that they give us an identity, giving us a status, and we know fully well that this is impermanent, that it will change. This surely is in the back of our minds, and yet this is what we hold on to. And so we feed desire, and as we feed desire, we also feed fear, fear of loss, loss of what we desire. And this is a cycle that will continue in perpetuity. This is a time for us to stop and think about what is it that we are seeking. Where is it that we are seeking? For we seem to have moved away from a sense of what our true purpose is as humans on this earth. What is our purpose? Today, perhaps in the 20th century, we don't know. Our purpose is defined by what we own, where we live, what we wear, where we work, and so on. But if we go back to the traditional Vedic model of the Purusharthas, there was a very beautiful idea of purpose. Underpinning everything was dharma. Dharma, what is to be done by an individual in any given situation. The dharma would change depending on the role that you played. For instance, the dharma as a student is different from the dharma as a parent, different from the dharma of a householder, different from the dharma of someone who works in a company. Where do we owe our loyalty? That differs depending on what situation we find ourselves in, depending on the stage of life. So all of these will determine what the dharma is. But the Manusmriti very beautifully tells us, what is dharma? What is the appropriate way of living? These are the 10 definitions of dharma presented in the Manusmriti. Dhriti, perseverance. That forthrightness, the ability to persevere with what one sets out to do, knowing that this is right. Kshama, the ability to be forgiving. Dhamma, self-control, self-restraint. Asteya, to not even covet, to not even think about claiming something that does not belong to us. Shaucha, the maintenance of internal and external hygiene. Indriya nigraha, control of the senses. Because our senses are typically like windows out into the world, and these are where we very easily are led astray. So Indriya nigraha, the control of the senses, is very important. Dehi, clarity, a sharp, clear, insightful clarity. Vidya, knowledge. What is the knowledge? The right knowledge to know what is real and what is not, what is permanent and what is not in this life that we lead. Satyam, truthfulness, and akrodha, abstention from anger, freedom from anger. Dashakam, dharma lakshanam. These are the definitions, the hallmarks of dharma. This was the base on which a human built up his or her life. And what was next? What was our purpose? One had to move through the different stages as a student, and then you move into a relationship, marry, have children, raise a family. There it is sanctioned. Artha and kama are necessary. There is a necessity to earn money, and where there is money, where there is wealth coming in, naturally there are desires. And so there is an effort made to fulfill those desires. But then it doesn't stop there. When you've fulfilled one desire, there is another desire to take its place. And then again, the pressure to earn more, to run more, and so to be in competition. This is where we were. I think our lives are going to be defined now, not so longer by the common era and before the common era, as we say in history, but pre-COVID and post-COVID. Because before December, this is where we were, to always be in competition to run a race. But this is not functional. This is not helping us. And this is not the only purpose of life, because all that this pursuit of artha and kama does is that it anchors us outside. We think we have a control. In reality, as the situation has told us, we have none. There's no security jobs. There is no security of jobs. There is no security of anything we don't know. And we are dealing with this uncertainty. And so, therefore, what is our purpose? Yoga, Veda says that our purpose is not merely to live in the here and now, but to also prepare for the hereafter, to move to higher, progressively higher planes of refinement. I'm not going into the details of this model. Eventually, long term, the freedom from this cycle of sukha and dukkha, freedom from birth, life, and death, keeping it very simple. But what will happen here is that something has to change. First of all, we need to have clarity. Some wisdom has to dawn so that we make a shift from being in competition with others, from being in competition with nature, to being able to function with a spirit of cooperation, to feel that I am part of a much larger whole. And that jnana is needed. Now, this knowledge will not dawn on its own. Something has to be done, and we will see. And what happens when we don't have this clarity, is that the sattva, the lucidity comes and goes. There are flashes of clarity, but we are prisoners to the fluctuation of rajas and tamas. We need vairagya, detachment, very much needed. And again, this is the lesson that we learn as we are inside our homes. Everything that we are being detached from the world outside, from our previous ways of living, we will explore this in just a few minutes. So little by little, through the cultivation of jnana, through the development of vairagya, we see that it is possible, little by little, to bring the levels of rajas and tamas down so that they keep us functional. But sattva needs to stay in dominance. Then what happens is that this race, this competition stops. Because there, in that race, it's me out for myself. And there is a shift. This shift has to happen. And that shift is to be centered in the self. Inward bound, anchored in the self. This is the lesson. This is the great gift that this worldwide lockdown has given to us, because it gives us a chance to explore what it means to be in solitude, which is different from being lonely. Let's see what the text has to say. See, why is vairagya important? Vairagya is detachment. And there's this very beautiful, very powerful verse from the Vairagya Shatakam of Bhartrihari. I'm just taking out one, this is 100 verses on Vairagya. I'm explaining 31. He says, Bhoge roga bhayam, kule chuti bhayam, vittendra palat bhayam, mane dainya bhayam, bale ripu bhayam, रूपे जराया भयम शास्त्रे वादि भयम गुणे कल भयम काये कृतान्ताद् भयम सर्वं वस्तु भयान्वितं भुवि नृणां वैराग्यमेव abhayam. He says here, bhoge, for the one who wants to enjoy life, for the one who is able to enjoy life. You need money, you need the means, you need access. For a bhogi, for one who wants to enjoy life, there is fear of roga, of disease, of falling ill, always. For one who is of a great kula, of a great lineage, Chuti Bhayam, there is a fear of descent, of ignominy, of dishonor. For the one who possesses wealth, Vitte, the one who is wealthy, Nripalat Bhayam, fear of the king in those days. In our days, fear of taxation by the government, fear that this wealth will be taken away. I have to pay tax, and therefore fear. Mane dainya bayam. For the one who is full of pride of his power, there is fear of being weakened. Bale ripubayam. For the strong, there is fear of the enemy. Rupe, for the one who is very beautiful, there is always fear of the decay that will set in naturally with old age. Shastre Vadibayam. For the one who is very well learned, well versed in all the Shastras, there is fear of his learning being questioned by others. Gune Kalabhayam. For the one who has noble virtues, who prides himself on being noble, there is fear of being tainted by coming into contact with others. As long as we have this body, kaye kritantat bhayam, for all of us who are living, there is naturally fear of death. And so Bhartrahari says, Sarvam vastu bhayanvitam bhuvindranam. In this world, everything is pervaded with fear. There is nothing that we relate to without fear. And he says, very emphatically, vairagyam eva abhayam. Abhayam, the only thing that will give us freedom from this fear that holds us prisoner is the development of vairagya. What is vairagya? Detachment. To do what one has to do, to engage productively, and yet to let go. Not easy. We will see how we can develop this through the path shown in the Yoga Sutra. We need to shift this locus of control. Because right now, we are obsessed with control, exerting control over the world around us, control over the skies, control over the earth, control over the waters, control over the animals, everything. And this has led us to this path of self-destruction. Why? Because we believe, so far we've believed that we are at the center of this universe. We don't realize that we are a part of a much larger and much more productive whole that is already functioning. We are the dysfunctioning element there. And therefore, the only way ahead, and that's what this time in isolation should teach us, is that we have to shift this locus of control from the outside to within. As Vivekananda puts it so beautifully, he says, for the mind that is regulated and disciplined, the universe rests on the tip of your finger. There is nothing that is beyond our reach. And then we realize that there are vast universes of atoms outside. We are also but one speck in a mega universe. And this, when we see that locus of control shifting inside, when we learn to be content, to be regulated in terms of the body, breath, and mind, from this space, when we engage with the world outside, the whole perspective changes. And we have been given this gift, this chance to shift our locus of control so that we are moving from a position of helplessness to one of great empowerment. How do we do this? Something has to be done, there is no doubt here. What do we do? Well-directed, intelligent effort. This is what Patanjali presents as abhyasa, a sustained long-term practice. And this is where so many of us fail. I have no time. I have something else to do. This is our norm. And often our sangha itself is a deterrent to our abhyasa. Again, now we've been given the gift of cultivating the sangha of the self within. Only then we can bring about a change in the samskaras from the vyuthana to the nirodha. This requires effort and naturally will take time. We have a vast array of solutions, so many solutions across the Yoga Sutra. Chapter 1 gives us solutions to control the mind, to elevate the mind into states of meditation. For those of us who are not yet capable of this, there is the path of Kriya Yoga, functional, practical, very relevant in the here and now. And a branching off of Kriya Yoga, you have Ashtanga Yoga, where you have a stepwise, systematic approach to progressively gaining control of the body, of the breath, of the senses, of the mind. And this is the path that yoga shows us. Kriya Yoga, is one of the gifts that the Yoga Sutra has to offer. Tapas, discipline. What discipline? Discipline of the body, discipline of mind in terms of thoughts, discipline of speech. Swadhyaya, a process of introspection. Ishvara Pranidhana. I'm putting it very simply. Acceptance. This is how Sir Desikachar taught us Ishvara Pranidhana. Accept what is. Let go of what you don't have control of what was in the past or what will be in the future. How do we bring about this tapas is the next question. The Bhagavad Gita gives us a hint. Chapter 6, verse 17. Yukta ahara viharasya yukta cheshtasya karmasu yukta swapna avabodhasya yogo bhavati dukkha. This is Krishna telling Arjuna, what is it that will empower a yogi to free himself or herself from the trappings of dukkha? And he says, yukta ahara, appropriate, moderation in diet, to eat the right thing in the right quantity at the right time, procured in the right manner, cooked in the right manner. All of this, there has to be moderation. Yukta vihara, moderation in lifestyle, appropriate times of waking up, of work, of sleeping. Yukta cheshtasya karmasu, a moderation in your thoughts and your actions, no extremes. Yukta swapna avabodhasya, moderation in times of wakefulness, sleep, and dreaming. This is the key to being free of dukkha. This moderation is the key to making the transition from Utthana samskara into Nirodha samskara. This is the path of reclaiming the positivity that we have within us. From a yoga perspective, we see, and this is again validated again in the Bhagavad Gita, that we can only go step by step. It isn't possible just to close our eyes and say, okay, now I have to meditate. It's not going to happen because we have permitted the Vyuthana samskaras to take over and completely alter our ways of thinking, speaking, and behaving. And so we need to retrace our steps. And therefore, we start with the body. Little by little, develop the ability to restrain, control the senses, then focus on the mind, the manas, sensory dependent mind. Manas is the term usually used. And from there to the buddhi, the deeper intellect that is capable of intuition, of great intuitive decision making. Only this can happen. This progression has to happen if one has to truly be empowered from within. And this is a gift that we've been given. We've been given this time, this space, when our routines have come to an end. We don't have to run. We don't have to race. We don't have to eat on the move. We don't have to walk drinking our coffee. There is time for everything. There is time to cook. There is a lot of work. I know for many of us, it's a whole new lifestyle where we are cooking, cleaning, doing the laundry, so many changes, not going to work, not running the race. But it's a time for great reflection and so much inner work that can be done. What is the Swadhyaya? Swadhyaya fundamentally is holding up a mirror, looking at ourselves to see what we are, what we can be, and what we ought not to be. In the commentary, in Vyasa's commentary, specifically, Swadhyaya is correlated to chanting, the process of chanting mantras or any sacred chants from one's own tradition. Why chanting when one explores? See, the idea is that every tradition has, across the world, every culture has a tradition of sound, of sacred sound. It doesn't matter what religion or faith or group or community you belong to. There is power in the spoken word, in the utterance of sacred sounds, in the utterance of positive, affirmative words, if not mantras. And there are words that are unique to every culture, to every tradition. And these hold our genetic, our cultural inheritance. It's important for us to connect to the value systems of those who came before, because that is the genealogy that we share. That is the blood we share. That is the racial, cultural memory that we share. And so we can seek inspiration from the past, seek a connection with our roots. And therein, in our roots, lies the answers we seek. In the last few centuries, we've become so much oriented to living other people's dharma. And this is where the conflict is. Swadhyaya tells us to hold up a mirror to ourselves by accessing our roots. And this mirror has to be a mirror that's true and that's individual to each one of us. And that can come only from your tradition, your culture. So chanting is one way, or in other words, there are so many ways. Journaling, you could use this time to reflect, to write about various things, process so many things that we've never had time to process, give closure to so much dukkha that we hold. There is so much that can be done. Ishvara Pranidhana. Lastly, this is the path that Kriya Yoga tells us, tapas, swadhyaya, Ishvara Pranidhana. Without going into the nuances of Ishvara Pranidhana, because this is one of the most commented sutras, I'm trying to keep this simple and keep it practical from our perspective. At its core, Ishvara Pranidhana is a connection, a very deep, ardent connection to the Supreme, to something that is beyond everything. At this moment, whether we believe it or not, whether we wish to subscribe to the idea of a Supreme, one nevertheless has to surrender at the foot of nature, because this minute nano virus that we can't even see, that is invisible to our eyes, has managed to bring all of us, entire nations, down to their knees, struggling to find a solution. And therefore, there is this realization that there's something beyond. And Ishvara Pranidhana is this connection to that something. Whatever you call it, it doesn't matter. This is beyond the confines of religion. In its simplest, most comprehensible form, Ishvara Pranidhana is to live in a spirit of offering, to do everything as an offering, as an instrument that is serving this universe. This is something that we need to think about, because this is the spirit behind the traditional model of the Panchamahayajna, such a beautiful model that was presented to us. The Panchamahayajna are the 5 debts of gratitude that we need to pay, the offerings that we make, the yajna, the deva yajna to the gods. Here again, I'm not speaking about religious gods or forms that are created by man. I'm speaking about the forces of nature, without which we will not be present, to the earth, water, fire, wind, space, to the elements, to nature, to plants, to the sun, to the moon, to the stars. An offering of gratitude for the world that is Deva Yajna. Pitra Yajna, an acknowledgement of gratitude to those who came before us, because they were, we are today. And it is important to acknowledge and honor the memory of those who came before us. Brahma Yajna, the honoring of the sages, of the great masters, whose teachings stand across time, who show us a path. How do you honor them? By keeping their teachings alive. This is what we can do in return. Bhuta Yajna, what we do for the world around us. Truly now, this is a time of Bhuta Yajna. We are doing the world the greatest service by staying indoors. Manushya Yajna, what we can do for our fellow humans, those who share this path of life with us. Again, our greatest service. There are doctors, nurses, medical professionals, police, so many government officials fighting at the front line, oblivious to the danger to their life. They are doing Manushya Yajna. Our Manushya Yajna is again staying put, staying at home. The simplest way to keep ourselves safe and to keep others around us safe. Very relevant. Now, where is this concept of yajna coming from? It is an expression of gratitude, of deep gratitude for everything that we've received. This is Ishvara Pranidhana. And over and above its religiosity, over and above an affiliation to any particular form of God, Ishvara Pranidhana is to understand that everything in this universe is precious. Everything is of value. Nothing is higher or lower. And therefore, to act at all times in service of this whole, without prejudice, without animosity, in celebration of oneness rather than in amplification of the differences. This is the message that the Yoga Sutra gives us. Tapas Swadhyaya Ishvara Pranidhana. This is how we can reclaim the power that we feel we've lost. We've lost it because we vested this power outside. We can reclaim it by going within. And therefore, expression of gratitude is one of the single most powerful ways of making the shift from negativity, from fear, from anxiety, from the stress, from the uncertainty of what tomorrow is going to bring, into something that is affirmative. An expression of gratitude. We can show this in so many ways. And this is not merely said to sound fanciful. There are enough research studies that tell us that by the expression of gratitude, there is in reality a restructuring of the brain that happens, because there are new neural connections that are wired and fired that set in motion a whole new neurological process. There is definitely, when you express gratitude, an increase in the levels of both dopamine and serotonin, which are very important contributors to the parasympathetic activity of the nervous system. Naturally, as an outcome, when the dopamine and serotonin go up, the fear and anxiety responses will come down. And there is a complete cognitive restructuring that happens through these positive thoughts. And we see that this expression of gratitude has wide-reaching benefits at a physiological level, at an individual level, an increase of immunity, reduction of pain, reduction of stress, increased feeling of relaxation, of calmness. At a psychological level, contentment, happiness increases, propensity for low mood comes down, mood goes up, self-esteem goes up. At a social level, naturally, empathy increases. As I said in my lecture the other day, today we are for the first time concerned about our neighbors, about what's happening outside. And this is a huge shift. But as we see this, can we also express gratitude? Gratitude to all those who are fighting so that we can be safe. Gratitude for what we have at this moment, in terms of food, in terms of shelter, in terms of family, whatever it is, in terms of help that comes to us from the outside, an expression of gratitude. Naturally, all this changes our relationships, bringing down our irritability. And so we see that a very key element, even before we go into practices, because there are practices of asana that can help to give us some measure of control over the body. Practices of pranayama help us to control the processes of thinking, making us shift from just spur of the moment reactions that are fueled by our desires and our anger and our frustrations and our fear. We change that pattern to a pattern of calm response simply by changing the way we breathe. There is meditation that can progressively lead us inside. But most important, even before all of this, if we can practice gratitude, that itself can bring so much of affirmative change into our lives. There is such a pretty story. One could, you could dismiss this as a story, as something that did not happen, but just as an indication of the power of positive intention. Just a short story before I move on to our practice for today. There was a sadhu, a rishi of great yogic powers who was passing by a region that was like a desert, dry, parched, no water, withered plants. And he came across a bird that was in a very pathetic condition, with its feathers drooping, almost on the verge of death. And seeing him pass by, the bird asked him, "Where are you going?" And this man said that, "I'm going to meet Narayana, Lord Vishnu." And so the bird says, "Please, when you go, would you ask this God that you're going to meet how long my suffering is going to last?" And the sage says, yes, I will. And he proceeds to meet Narayana in Vaikuntha. And he asks Narayana, he says, he asks, there is a conversation, I'm leaving all that aside. And he says that on my way here, I came across this bird that was in a state of great, very pathetic state that made me feel extremely sorry for it. And this bird wanted me to ask you how long its suffering will continue. And Narayana said that unfortunately, on account of karma, this is the story. That this suffering for this bird will not end in this lifetime. It has to continue for several lifetimes more. And the sage said, if I were to go back and tell the bird this, surely it will be a cause of great suffering. And therefore, what do I tell this bird? And so Narayana says, tell the bird to just keep chanting a mantra. The story was in Tamil, but I'm translating it into English. And what is it that the bird is asked to say? Thank you. Just thank you. Thank you for everything. This is the mantra that Narayana tells the sage to tell the bird. And the sage goes back the same path, comes across the bird, and he tells the bird, see, I don't know. The Narayana did not tell me when the suffering of yours will end, but he did tell me to tell you to keep saying thank you. Just say thank you to everything, whether you feel it or not, just to say thank you as a practice. And the bird said, yes, I will do as you say. And the sage went his way. And a few weeks later, he happened to come back on the same path, and he couldn't recognize the desert landscape. It was blossoming with greenery. There was an oasis nearby, lush green, and the bird had magically regenerated itself. It was in the prime of health. And the sage was quite surprised, and he said, what happened? And the bird said, I only said what you asked me to say. I only kept saying thank you. And as I said before, you could dismiss this as a story. Yes, birds don't talk. That's immaterial. But the fact remains that in the act of expressing gratitude, this is what the Panchamahayagnya tells us. That why do you offer? Offer because everything is valuable. Offer because you recognize the divine in everything. And you honor that divinity by acting in service of the whole. How? Simply express your gratitude. For us today, as we sit inside our homes, with this uncertainty of when the situation across the world will come to an end, there's one thing that we can repeat as our mantra. Thank you. To receive, to be grateful to receive what we have and to hold it with so much reverence. We are lucky, we are privileged, we are blessed. And to count every blessing and to hold on to this with preciousness, realizing that we are not possessors, that everything is transitory and that we are merely caretakers, and to pass on what has been given to others. At this moment inside our homes, you could say we have no way of passing it on. Yes, we can pass on. How? By setting an intention, by sending forth prayers. Whatever religion you belong to, whatever prayer you choose to utter, that doesn't matter. All that matters is the intention. And having done this, this is the teaching of the Yoga Sutra of the Vedic tradition. To receive with reverence, hold with gratitude, and pass on with grace and dignity. And then, most importantly, to let go. Identifying neither as a receiver, nor as a holder, nor as a giver. Because in all of these identities, there is a danger. There is a danger of getting trapped. It's important to just flow. Things are happening. And so to flow along and just to align ourselves with the path that unfolds. Currently, this is the only solution that we have, to be anchored in this present moment and to express our deep gratitude for everything that we have, and to pass on this feeling of gratitude to others, at least through our thoughts, through our wishes and our prayers. And this is how we can use this precious time, this gift that has been given, to make a shift from the vyuthana, from the negativity, from the dukkha, daurmanasya, angamejayatva, and this shwasa prashwasa, the disturbed breathing, all of this, into something that is empowering, that brings pleasure, that brings wellness to me, to the people around me, and to those outside, even if I can't see them, at least to send, to share this intention for wellness, for positivity. How? So many pathways, through asana, through pranayama, through chanting, through japa, through dhyana. Yoga gives us endless ways to achieve this shift from negativity into affirmative positivity. With that, I move into a short practice. I'd like you to sit comfortably. This is a practice of expressing gratitude, a practice of acknowledging, celebrating our great connectedness to this world around us. Sit quietly, take a few deep breaths, breathe in and out to your capacity. Now place your palms on your heart. As you breathe in, raise your arms above your head. You can stretch as much as you can. Visualize your connection to the universe. As you exhale, bring the arms down in a circle around you, back to your heart. Just visualize your connection to the world around and link everything that's around you, the elements, the animals, the birds, the plants, nature, all of this, others, to yourself. Inhale, arms up. And as you breathe out, bring your arms down in a circle back to your heart. Inhale. Exhale, lower the arms in a large circle, bringing them back to your heart, feeling your connection to the world outside. Inhale, arms up. And exhale, lower your arms. Inhale. Exhale. One last time. Inhale, arms up. Reach out to the world around, to the skies above. As you exhale, draw the circle around you, connecting everything outside to you. Now, seated in a comfortable position, please do Nadi Shuddhi Pranayama using the Mrigi Mudra. Place the thumb on one side and the little finger and ring finger on the other side of the nostril. Breathe in through the left nostril. Breathe out through the right nostril. Breathe in through the right nostril. And slowly breathe out through the left. As you do this, I'd like you to visualize the air outside moving in, bringing prana into your lungs. And as you exhale, the outward breath merging again with the air. So visualize this wave-like movement of the air, of the exchange that happens from the outside to the inside through the breath. Watch the breath, and as you do this, simply express your gratitude to the breath, to your breath that keeps you alive, that keeps every part of your body functioning. Please do this 6 times. Nadi Shuddhi Pranayama. Inhale left, exhale right, exhale left. Now, lower your hand. Just take a few breaths. Close your eyes. Visualize your connection to each of the elements. The earth below you, holding you, supporting you, nourishing you with an abundance of nourishment, nutrition. The skies above, the sun, the stars, the moon, the atmosphere that spans the earth and the heavens, the waters that make our lands fertile, that bring abundance and prosperity, the fire that exists as heat and warmth on the earth, helping us not just to cook, but also to digest what we eat as the fire within, and also the fire that takes us towards something higher, the fire inherent in the flame of a lamp that brings us light, dispelling the darkness. And visualize the air that surrounds us, giving us precious life. And as you visualize these elements, just send them a mental thank you for all that we have been blessed to receive. Now, visualize yourself seated on the earth at the base of a large tree, the branches that spread out skywards, filled with leaves. Your body is aligned along the trunk. The roots of the tree stretch below the earth. The branches reach up to the skies. As you breathe in and out, visualize taking in the air that the trees give to us. Hold your breath with gratitude for this gift of breath of air. As you exhale, let go again with gratitude, knowing that what you breathe out, the trees breathe in. Hold briefly, expressing your gratitude again for being a part of this cycle. I repeat, visualize yourself at the center of a tree, roots below, stretching into the earth, branches filled with leaves above. Breathe in deeply, drawing in the air provided by the trees, bringing much needed oxygen to the lungs. Breathe in deeply, hold, and express your gratitude to the trees for giving you this. As you breathe, let go of your anxiety, let go of your stress, let go of fear, knowing that the trees are there to take away what we exhale. As you hold after the exhale, again say thank you. Now slowly let go of this visualization and just breathe in and out a few times. As I chant, please chant after me. I will pause. Visualize calmness, peace, tranquility for all of Earth's creatures, for the plants, for the animals, tranquility for the elements, and for all our fellow humans across the world. Om Shanti. Shanti, Shanti. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Thank you. This is a short practice just given as a guideline. You're welcome to expand it to as long as you wish. I have just one question. Swadhyaya is introspection. Ishvara pranidhana is surrender. Swadhyaya is to constantly reflect about what I am, what I should not be, and what I can be, to be the best that I can, not from a perspective of running a race, but to be the best I can as a human. And in all of this, in Kriya Yoga, it is in all yajna, in expression of gratitude, there is no anticipation of anything in return. The questions I had was, is Swadhyaya about surrendering to each and every thought? And does it mean that I shouldn't expect anything in return? I hope I have answered your question. And so we wind up with this. I will meet you shortly with one more lecture on the value of Ishvara Pranidhana in these times. Until then, take care, stay safe, stay well. I conclude with a very beautiful chant which speaks about, in just 3 lines, how we can move from negativity to positivity. Lead me from that which is untrue to that which is true. Lead me from death, from that which is dark, from that which is ignorant, to that which is full of light, effulgent. Lead me from death and from the fear of death to immortality. Om Asato Ma Satgamaya. Om Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya. Om Mrityorma Amritangamaya. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Thank you.